Okay, welcome to our webinar information session on the ACMS Mongolia Field School 2020. My name is Charles Kruzikoff. I'm the Executive Director of the ACMS and helping to direct the Field School. I taught one of the classes in the Field School last year. We have several students who were in the Field School last year here who can help answer questions and provide information about their experience. So tonight we're going to go through a webinar and go through some of the information, the overall information about the field school, how you apply, some of the basics on how the courses are going to run. And then we are going to ask our past participants to give some testimonials, talk about their experience. And we are always happy to connect you with people who were in the field school last year. The courses are different, but the overall structure and setup is similar, and they can talk with you about their experience. And we had quite a diverse range. I think we had 18 to 78 years old in age range last year. So we had about half the participants were students and half were adults, K-12 educators, people who were just interested in coming to Mongolia on an educational travel experience, and a wide range of participants from all around the world. So first, I will give an overview. The host organization for this field school is the American Center for Mongolian Studies. ACMS has been around since 2002. We have our permanent office in Ulaanbaatar in our research library, which we opened in 2004. And many people say that we're sort of the academic embassy in Ulaanbaatar. Anyone who's doing scholarly work in Mongolia can use our services. We have American in our name because we receive some support from the American government through programs which support the Fulbright scholarships and other research fellowships. So we give out about 10 research fellowships every year. We have a summer language school, and we have a variety of programs where we host student groups, we host teacher groups, we host a variety of different groups. And that gave us the idea to create this summer field school, which we started last year. So we are a nonprofit, a US-based nonprofit, and our home office is at the University of Pennsylvania. And we are a consortium of different international universities, mostly in North America, Mongolia, but around the world. And our members are scholars and people interested in Mongolia from all over the world. So we put out every month a publication called This Month in Mongolian Studies that provides a compendium of information about Mongolia, academic events, books, research fellowships, different activities that may be going on, conferences. So if you want to be part of that mailing list, just send us an email at info@mongoliacenter.org. And all the information on our field school and all our other programs are at our website, mongoliacenter.org, and we're also on Facebook and other locations. So our field school, we launched last year. We received support from the Henry Luce Foundation to help us get the field school off the ground and to provide some scholarships that I'll be talking about. And so this coming summer is our second annual interdisciplinary field school. Last summer we had 3 courses. We had about 60 students. 30 international students and 30 from Mongolia. So each course had about 20 students. And we're saying that that's the maximum that we would have in any of our course sessions is 20 students. We're expecting this summer we're going to have 7 courses. One's a shorter sort of pre-course that you'll hear about, and you'll be hearing about each of the courses that we'll have. And we've split them into 2 different sessions to provide you with more opportunity for the dates that work best for you. And the different course topics. All the courses start and end in Ulaanbaatar, so you'll meet up with your group in Ulaanbaatar, and then we will travel, all the course groups travel outside of Ulaanbaatar, and for the regular session courses, they'll spend about 2 weeks in the countryside. Some are going to the north parts of Mongolia, some are going to the south and the central parts of Mongolia. So therefore, you can kind of look and decide which areas do you want to go down to the Gobi, to the desert, or would you rather be up in the north with a bit more rain, but green grass and beautiful rivers. So think about that when you're looking at the different courses that are offered. Participants are expected to participate, we say, in the full program. Because we'll be out in the countryside, it's very difficult for people to get back to the city. Of course, we can make emergency provisions, but in general, we want people to participate in the full set of 19 days of the program. The field school is open to all participants. You don't have to be a student. You can be a lifelong learner. Anyone 18 and over can participate in the field school. People from all countries as well. Each course has a maximum of 20 learners, and so we're expecting somewhere between 10 to 20 learners in each of the program courses. You don't need to have gone to Mongolia. I would say the majority of people who participated in 2019 had never been to Mongolia before. Many of them just thought this was an interesting way. It's a kind of a better, richer way to see Mongolia. You're going to be traveling with real experts, as you'll meet some of the instructors tonight who have spent a lot of time themselves in the field. We'll have Mongolian co-instructors and Mongolian participants, and so you'll have a much, much richer experience than you would have even doing a guided tour group, for example, where you're going to be just with international people taking a tour of Mongolia. This is really an immersive experience that allows you to really get to know a number of Mongolian students and scholars and visit field sites in Mongolia and directly interact and conduct field research alongside experts in Mongolia. But you don't have to know Mongolian language or have been to Mongolia. We'll have experts, we'll have translators along to help you with that. You'll make your own travel arrangements to meet up with the group in Ulaanbaatar. We'll have appropriate hostel or hotel locations where people will stay while they're in Ulaanbaatar. We're going to have about a 3-day orientation in Ulaanbaatar where you'll get to know the people in your course, and we'll have some general orientation so you get to know a bit about Mongolia, Mongolian history, the Mongolian language lessons, a bit about countryside life, how you visit people in a ger, the cultural aspects of that. And then you'll travel with your group out to the countryside and go to do your field studies. And ACMS does all the organization of all the transportation, your accommodations while you're in the field, your meals, all of that will be arranged and is covered as part of the field school. So as I said, we have 7 different courses. These are offered across 3 different sessions, and we'll talk about each of these in more detail, but we have a sort of short session, a 5-day course that's in Ulaanbaatar with a short visit, overnight visit out to a area just near Ulaanbaatar, but outside the city, and it's on visual storytelling. So it's something that some people who are doing the session 1, for example, may want to take the pre-course, because it will be a way for you to better understand and get ready for if you want to do photojournalism, if you want to do video journalism, interviews and things in Mongolia. It's a great sort of prep, working on that, starting your sort of storytelling and laying out your storytelling that then you can carry over and capture while you're in your field school courses. Or you can take that just as a standalone class as well. Then just after that pre-course, then we have the first longer session. The sessions last, each of the sessions that we have last about 3 weeks. The first one, as you may know, Mongolia has a big holiday, Naadam, which falls sort of around July 10th and the time around that. So we basically will do our field school prior to the Naadam holidays and wrap up again in Ulaanbaatar just a little bit before Naadam. So it may be something that you want to do is come and do one of the courses in session 1 and then stay on in Ulaanbaatar or in Mongolia for the holiday time as well. I'll say last year, many of the people who participated did travel either before or after the field school on their own. And that's part of what will be helpful. You'll get a lot of contacts, you'll get a lot of information and support that will help you set up your own tours and travels that you want to do, say, after the field school classes. So we have 2 classes in session 1 and then 4 classes to choose from in session 2. Session 2 is in late July to middle of August. The weather is very nice. This falls after the holidays, and is timed so that people can do this prior to coming back and the start of the school year and other activities at the end of the summer in North America and Europe. So we will go over each of these classes and talk about them in a little more depth and open to any questions you have. One of the key aspects of the program of all of the field school classes is that you will be traveling out in the countryside. I didn't include all of the locations in the sort of course outlines and information that is on our website about each of the courses. You'll see some of the locations that the courses will be traveling to, some of the experiences. So this is will be a mix of, you'll be doing field studies, you'll be meeting experts, local officials, going to visit different very interesting sites. The class I taught last year was on renewable energy. We went to wind farms. We went to the site of a proposed hydropower dam. We saw solar greenhouses, a lot of different aspects in the field, and then talked to different experts about renewable power and development in Mongolia, and local people who, in their iconic gers, the tents, the yurts, have small solar systems or wind systems that they use to power their tents. So while you're in the countryside, we will be traveling in these vans. That's why we include some of the vans. Some of the travel is off-road in the sense that not all of Mongolia has paved road. Most of Mongolia does not. So you'll often be traveling on sort of dirt tracks. The accommodations will generally be in these what we call ger camps, the camps where you'll have a central building or tent where they'll have a food service that will be, and the food will be prepared and served in 3 meals each day, and you'll be sleeping 2 or 3 people in these different tent accommodations in the ger camps while you're out in the countryside. You'll get the chance to do some tourist activities, whether that's horseback riding. Seeing here, I have a picture of the Taki horses, the famous Prevolovsky horse, the native horses of Mongolia. So you'll get the chance to see a lot of different areas, and there'll be a mix of sort of tourist travel experiences together with your field studies. The tuition for international participants for the program is $2,900 US, but that includes all of the teaching and support in the program. It includes your transportation in Mongolia. It includes your housing for the duration of the program. So that's basically the night before the program starts until the night after we wrap up in Ulaanbaatar, and all the transportation, housing, and meals in between. There will be a number of scholarships offered. We gave out over $30,000 in scholarships last year. Scholarships of up to $2,500 are available. The application for those are online, and they will be given out based upon merit and need, and to create a diversity of people and a wide range of people. Everyone is eligible for a scholarship. For Mongolian participants, the tuition is set at a different rate. You can see that online, and we will have scholarships as well for Mongolian participants that potentially cover the costs of participating in the program. Scholarships will be given out based upon those people who apply by our priority deadline. So we really encourage you to apply by March 1st, which is our priority deadline, and will make you eligible for the scholarship awards. The final deadline for the program is on April 30th. You can see the application online. You can go in, look at it, and see what materials you need. It's a fairly straightforward application, and we're happy to answer any questions on that. Some people may ask, students may want academic credit for the program. We're not an academic institution directly, so we don't offer credit. What we found last year was anyone who wanted credit usually got that credit through their home institutions and made those arrangements directly with their home institution. We can help you with that if you need help. A project, it's often a report or a paper that you're asked to write based upon your experience, and we can help that. We can provide a more detailed syllabus of the course, the readings, the assignments, and other information that would be helpful to you if you're seeking academic credit. So let us know, contact us, and we'll talk and work with you if you want academic credits. The application material, as I say, is online. Everyone will write a short statement of interest. We ask you to talk about your experience in remote areas, camping, just because we'll be spending significant time in remote areas. You have to get used to that and be prepared for it. So we just ask you to reflect on that and let us know your comfort level with that. We ask for your CV and some personal details, your status or your student. If you're a student, we ask for a letter of recommendation from a faculty member. And if you're applying for a fellowship, you can put in a statement of sort of need or a statement of making your case for why you believe you should deserve a fellowship from the program. Mongolian applicants have a separate application that has most of the same information, but should contact the office in Ulaanbaatar and work with them as you fill out your application. Now our testimonial. So we have a number of participants. I'll start with Alana, and then maybe we'll add Liz. You guys, for Aurora Roads students, so Aurora Roads University in Victoria, British Columbia. Alana, I think you're joining us from Vancouver, right?
That's true.
So I'll let you just talk a little bit about your experience last summer and any questions that, as I say, you might have had going into it that and how those got resolved for you.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name's Alana Bennett, and I participated in the Migrants, Migration, and Contemporary Livelihoods in Mongolia element of ACMS last summer. And it was, in general, a fantastic both travel experience, personal experience, and learning experience. So the way that the program was set up was that it was like three areas of study that all fit together really nicely. Um, I would say like the foundation for the interdisciplinary program was the effect of climate change on Mongolia. And the migration team was looking at that through a lens of how are people who are losing their herds out in the Mongolian steppes, um, how are they adjusting to life in Ulaanbaatar? And how is Ulaanbaatar dealing with the influx of migrants coming into the city in terms of creating welfare, sanitation, hygiene, food, jobs, socioeconomic equality, and supporting those groups. The trip itself allowed us to take a look at that both in Ulaanbaatar, where we got to do things like tour the Gur districts, which were super interesting. We got to meet with startups like Gur Hub, which is looking to define and change the way that Gur districts are built by creating community centers that lead to like social and community innovation. We got to meet with the Board of Tourism, with different economic organizations, with urban planners, and then moving into the field or into the steppe, we got to meet with small, traditionally nomadic herding families and talk with them about their lifestyle, and then speak with them about how things like Mongolia's energy dependency and potential transition might affect the region in which they live, and then which was a secondary interdisciplinary program. And then the third element of the interdisciplinary program was archaeology. And so there, like because you get to participate in all programs, it was super interesting to have the conversations about like, how Charles mentioned earlier, how families are going solar, or how proposed hydroelectric dam area, if that area is flooded, how would that affect the livelihood of the people who have been living there for eons? So it, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that it was really, really interesting. And I would say keep in mind that although you're selecting one key area of focus, you do get to engage in super interesting dialogue and apply your learning to all areas in the program.
Thank you, Alana. And I'll turn Liz, are you there? you want to jump in?
Yep, I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you want me just to share a little bit about the experience?
Yeah, and so what questions did you have before you started, and sort of
Right.
how did that, what concerns did you have, for example, and how were those addressed, or
Sure.
how did you find it on the ground?
Okay. I guess my question that I had before, because I did the renewable energy school, was I wasn't sure how much of a background I needed in that field. And I came from more of a research and reporting, and then the program that I was in and I'm still in is more international business, so not very much on renewable energy at all. And that was completely fine because Charles and Derek, our other instructor, took us from wherever we were at, whatever our level of knowledge was. One thing I would say for ours, and I don't know moving forward, is my personal thought was I could have done a bit more reading and background just to get my head around some of the foundational material, just because you get more out of it. So whatever you put into it, you get out of it. That being said, Darren made himself available almost 24/7. Not exactly, but I was so impressed with his availability to just talk any concepts through, sit down, have a coffee on the bus ride. I don't think he ever stopped teaching. He was just always on. And so for me, that was so valuable and impressive. I learned so much. Um, I was prepared for the sort of remote feeling. I've done lots of camping and that sort of thing. But I would say there were maybe a couple people that weren't. And so just to kind of prepare that, like, you are going to be out there. Mongolia is sort of a strange blend of traditional and modern. You might be in the middle of nowhere, but you also might see a Prius driving through the land. But just sort of come prepared. Like, I brought my camelback full of water and I hung that up in my gear every night so that I was staying hydrated, because you can't just go out and necessarily grab water. So, I mean, they provide stuff, but just kind of bring what you need in order to do better throughout the day, rather than showing up and going, oh shoot, I wish I had these sort of things that I find I need, you know? But I would say, so I started my program in September. It's great, but this has been the highlight of my school program, and it wasn't even, a requirement. So, yeah, I couldn't recommend it more.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to change gears a little bit and have Janis, who is one of our K-12 teachers and created a wonderful website for kids as well, coming out of the program. So, um, Janis, are you?
I'm here. Okay,
Yeah.
so can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I am a fourth grade teacher in the Chicago area, just north of Chicago, and I came into the same program Liz was in, the Alternative Energy Development Program, knowing nothing much about alternative energy and even less about Mongolia. But I do come out of a very long ago academic background in Chinese history and had always wanted to, for some reason, go to Mongolia. And so I was very excited to hear about this. And I applied not thinking I would be accepted, and was really lucky and got in and got some financial support. I found that the program really changed the way I saw the world. The academic study was terrific. It pushed us. It made us think. The instructors, as Liz said, I won't go back over it, were phenomenal. We got to meet the Mongolian participants. So it wasn't just a bunch of international participants touring. We were with people from Mongolia, and we were learning from experts from Mongolia, people who ran a solar energy company, solar greenhouses, and so on. So there was a lot of expertise available to us so that you could learn the things that you didn't walk in knowing. There were people from a lot of ages, as you can tell from looking at Liz and I. I'm a 62-year-old grandmother, and I didn't have any physical problems with the environment. I'm not a big hiker or camper, but I was comfortable, I was happy, and I felt intellectually challenged. When I came back, the kids that I teach and the parents of the kids I teach and my colleagues really benefited, not only from the specific information, because I do teach about energy to my kids, of course, at a fourth grade level, but also because of the global worldview that it gave me. So I can talk to my kids now about the different ways people live and why they're no odder than we are. We're just as odd to the rest of the world as a bear is to my suburban North Church student. And everybody has some sort of a project as you go through the field school. Mine was to develop a website for kids, and that's still in process, but it is exploremongolia.org if you want to see what comes out of it. The last thing is that there is money available from other organizations. So when I got the fellowship from ACMS, I couldn't possibly, as a teacher, really afford to pay the rest of it myself. But I did get funding from the Illinois Digital Educators Alliance, and that funded most of the rest of it. And as a teacher, I was also eligible for tuition reimbursement from my district, which covered the last piece. So don't feel as if you can't do it for financial reasons. There are wonderful, wonderful people out there who want Americans, North Americans, and people from elsewhere to learn about other countries and global citizens. So don't strike it off your list just because airfare is expensive. Take a look at other possible sources of funding. It will change your life. I know it changed mine, and it changed my students.
Thank you. And it's a good point. I think a number of people were able, and that's part of our goal with the fellowships. We often are unable to give full fellowships to each student, but having some partial fellowship often helps you sort of leverage or find other sources of funds as well. So now I'll turn it over to Chloe, our final participant from last year, who's now coming to you from Nicaragua. Chloe was already, I believe, a world traveler, but had a fantastic experience in Mongolia last summer and has gone on to Toronto next. Okay, Chloe.
Yes, so thank you, Charles. Good evening. So I'm an anthropology and philosophy student, and anthropology is really about a deep hanging out with people and about being on the field. So really being in Mongolia was hard on because of the language barrier. But then when we have translators with us, it just like breaks the whole barrier and allows us to have really meaningful conversations and try to understand people's experiences on the ground. And I think that's what really is interesting about the field course, is really about that deep hanging out that we get to have with people that otherwise we would not be able to communicate with. I came to Mongolia really eager to learn about cultural heritage, about semi-nomadic traditions, but I think that was within my own life experience and my own worldview. And I think the field school really nuanced and kind of de-romanticized and ultimately really exposed me to how we can academically study countries like Mongolia, countries that are going through tremendous challenges, rapid development, really kind of quick development in urbanization in cities. And it really helped me understanding the hopes, the challenges, and the experience of people who migrate in Mongolia, but also who are just living in Mongolia. And I think that really differs from the experiences that we can have in class as students, because we talk about theory, we read things, but I think it just takes a whole other level, a whole like much more human experience when we're speaking face to face to people, and when we're really exposed to the consequences of either climate change or of migration in Mongolia. And I think it builds a sense of personal responsibility even when we're having friends from that country. We care more, and I think that's really important when it comes to creating a more like sustainable world. In terms of the support of ACMS and in terms of the field school, I want to echo what Janis said earlier about having Mongolian participants and really great colleagues as fellow students in the field course, because I think that really enhances our understanding of Mongolia, and I think it helps kind of breaking down barriers that we could otherwise build if we were just a group of international students. Because those Mongolian participants are also our friends and colleagues in that experience, and for me that was a really different experience than from other field courses. Of course, I want to echo that we had amazing profs and amazing experts on the ground. And I also want to highlight that it's not a lot of universities that have Mongolian studies as programs or Mongolian experts. And so for me, at least, it was an introduction to the field of Mongolian studies and to the world of what academia, Mongolian studies in academia looks like. And so it was really great to be in touch with experts and just understand the role of ACMS in Mongolia. And of course, that field class really changes how we see the world. For me, at least as an undergrad student, it really pushed me to think critically about development, especially in countries like Mongolia. And so that's how I ended up in Nicaragua. I'm here for 6 months now. I just see it as a different case study of another country that's going through climate change, that's going through a lot of development issues. And I think it just motivated me to continue my studies and my master's degree in international or cooperation work. So I think those kind of field schools can actually have really big impact on how we intentionally drive our study path and how we engage with our communities, either at home or around the world. So that's
Thank you very much, Chloe. And I see that's you there in this picture in the Gare doing an interview. So everyone will
Yes,
get
that's
the
me
chance
with the bun.
to visit Gares and visit with local people through their field school, the different field school courses. Now we're going to go through the different course topics. And as I say, the first one is this Presession course, which is a 5-day course that Peter Bittner, a visual storyteller himself, will be leading mostly in Ulaanbaatar, but doing one overnight stay just outside Ulaanbaatar. So Peter, if you want to talk just briefly about yourself and your background, experience in Mongolia, and your course.
You bet. Hey, thanks so much, Charles. I'm really stoked about this course. It's going to be a really interesting culmination and combination of a lot of different skill sets and experiences that I bring to the table. So I first visited Mongolia in 2011 as an undergrad student, so I can definitely relate to a lot of the participants. I first came for a month in the summer studying Buddhism, and we traveled, and it wasn't quite the field school model, but similarly, it really opened my eyes to some of the possibilities and some of the really exciting things about Mongolia. And I inevitably kind of applied to teach English here through a Fulbright fellowship, and it was one of the few ways to get back here at the time. And I started a blog and really began my journey as a visual storyteller. And that eventually led me to UC Berkeley, where I studied new media journalism and got my master's in new media journalism there. And now I've been in Mongolia full-time as a freelance multimedia journalist for about 2 years. And I've spent a total of roughly 4 years in country, and I've worked with a lot of different publications as a one-off kind of freelancer here. So I've done projects for CNN and Bloomberg and Al Jazeera and Vice, and I've covered a wide variety of different topics. I don't really have a beat per se, but I've covered sports like Mongolian rugby and traditional kind of horseback archery events. I've covered climate change and environmental topics related to melting glaciers and Mongolia's archaeological kind of legacy that's being lost due to climate change. I've covered air pollution and some urban environmental issues. And so it's been a really interesting adventure here for me. I'm currently in Mongolia right now, although I'm a lecturer at the University of California, Berkeley's Graduate School of Journalism, specifically in drone videography. Mongolia is a really great place visually as a storyteller for many reasons. in particular for drones, which are my niche, perhaps, if I had one. And I think part of the reason is there's so many just vast open areas here which are perfect for all sorts of landscape photography or really many different types of visual storytelling. So the class is 5 days. It's based in Ulaanbaatar, so it would be a great opportunity for those who are coming for a longer course to really get to know their gear and equipment a little bit. It'll be a crash course in both peri-urban Ulaanbaatar. You'll get a sense of some of the different types of, I guess, economic activities and religious and socio-cultural themes here. You'll also have the chance to get acquainted with a wide variety of multimedia storytelling tools. And that includes everything from podcasting to narrative text-based writing. That's also something that I still do a lot of, and that's the foundation of much of the storytelling I do, whether it's writing a script for video or something else, pitching, for example, to publications to try to get them to sign on to my projects and fund some of these exciting stories I've been able to do. And I think that, for students, there's going to be a really big mixture of really exploring a lot of different types of areas, including monasteries, and we'll also do a Ger camp visit with a family that'll be an overnight trip in the peri-urban area here. So within an hour or two of Ulaanbaatar, it won't be a ton of driving, but you'll get a good sense of some of the traditional lifestyles and lifeways that are really integrated within the urban context here too. And you won't need to purchase any specific equipment. I encourage you to bring whatever you have, whether it's a point and shoot camera, your camera phone. I will have 360 cameras and drones for people to test out as part of the course, but I will have a suggested equipment list for those who are interested to be able to see what types of gear that I personally recommend. I'm someone that travels an awful lot in Mongolia here, and I love to have a really lightweight and mobile gear equipment list. So things such as, really small recording devices for high quality audio, a lavalier microphone, for example, that just fits in your pocket. You don't have to worry about, is good on all the bumpy roads around. So the equipment list that I have is mainly for guidance and suggestions, but I'm really happy to field questions from participants moving forward by email or by Facebook, or directly through the ACMS website. We can connect a number of different ways. But I'm really excited about the course, and I look forward to hopefully meeting you all in person.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. And as I say, we're going to go through the different courses, and if anyone has questions, you can contact the ACMS, the MFS, Mongolia Field School, MFS at mongoliacenter.org, or through our info at mongoliacenter.org, and we can connect you to the different instructors as well, or you can connect to them directly. So now we're going to move on to what is one of the two courses offered in our first session, which is going to be from June 15th to July 3rd. And this one is on music and literature in Mongolia, and I think really offers a great chance if you want to really get that feel for the origins and the context of Mongolian music and literature. And we have two experts, Simon Wickham-Smith and Sun Min Yoon, who will be leading this course. So are you guys there to introduce
we're here.
The course?
Hello.
Hello. Okay.
Hello. So this is Simon Wickham-Smith. So I'm literary scholar and translator of Mongolian literature. I've been doing it, I guess, now for about almost 20 years. And I've translated quite a bit and studied quite a lot too. And we work with writers and musicians. And I'm going to hand you over to my colleague now to talk about herself, and then I'll come back and talk about the course.
Hello, my name is Sunmin Yoon. I'm an ethnomusicologist and I'm a music scholar. I've been working with a lot of singers, well, musicians, but mainly singers in Ulaanbaatar and also in countryside. A singer as herders. So the sound is really kind of everywhere in Mongolia, not just in Ulaanbaatar, but in countryside. So we really want to bring this kind of experience about words and sound into this course. So Simon?
Yeah, so the course itself will be in part in UB, Ulaanbaatar, to begin with. We'll be having sessions, some talks by ourselves, but also some talks by some writers and some musical experts and participants and practitioners. And then moving out of UB, we'll be going probably to the Gobi, to a place called Saint Chand, where there's a lot of history about this monk called Danton Ravja, who was a poet, monk, Buddhist expert. And we'll have readings and participation from other practitioners of music. And then we'll be going to the grassland, the steppe, closer to UB in Tovaimek. And there we'll be having similar experiences. But the music and the literature is going to be augmented by something that what we think is giving birth to this culture, which is a deep interaction with the landscape and with animals and the country itself. And we'll also be talking to local people and asking them to show us how they live, and to talk about how their interaction with the landscape produces this literature and this music. You have any?
Yeah, and so we will have some of the local singers and musicians and older tradition bearers, preservers. So we'll talk about legend that is related and poetry that is related, that is also part of the lyrics of the songs. They're gonna come and actually do small, kind of tiny concert and workshop at the same time, so that actually it's not just listening to it, but it's part of like a hands-on kind of experience as well.
Yeah, and so most evenings there will be type of reading or some sort of musical concerts. There won't be very many handouts, but there will be stories and poetry that I've translated, and hopefully that will give a lot of background to the talks and the participation that we
have. And some of the concepts that is related to culture, academically speaking, right? We're gonna bring it into the discussions, and that's gonna be really kind of part of the academic learning process.
Yeah, so there will be an academic part of it, but the majority is based on experience and on a sort of immersion in the literary and sonic world of Mongolia.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the course. We're going to go ahead and go through some of the other courses. If you have any final comments, Simon and Sunmin? Okay, we'll
Yeah.
move on. I
Yeah,
know that,
sorry. No.
We
We
had
were,
technical issues.
yeah, we were muting our audio. Do you have any final comments?
No,
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 no.
we have none.
Please.
Yeah,
okay.
carry on.
But I
Thank you.
think we got a good sense. I mean, I think your course, of course, those who love music, who want to participate, and really, one can imagine sitting on the step, sitting in a gare, listening to music in the context in which it was created, is very, very important and would be a fabulous experience. Unfortunately, I don't believe Annika or Batboyan are able to join us tonight. Are either of you here? So I'll just give a brief introduction to their class, which is on climate change and herding. So Annika has done a fair bit of research and field experience in Mongolia, and Batboyan works with the grasslands and herder research center there in Mongolia, the Center for Nomadic Pastoralism. And so what they're going to lead is a course where you really go out and meet herders on the grasslands across, mostly across central Mongolia, the area around Kharkhorin, which is the traditional capital of Mongolia, and some of the other real central grasslands areas, and see some different grassland areas and get the sense of how climate change, how environmental changes, the economic development and changes are impacting the nomadic herders. So about 1/3 of people in Mongolia still practice traditional nomadic herding, living with their animals, living with their tents in a nomadic, it's a semi-pastoral system of people moving across different zones in the grasslands into different areas, and moving with their animals, which include sheep, goats, camels, cows, yaks, and moving across this grassland area. So what this will be great is you'll really get to meet some of the local government officials, some who are trying to work with the herders directly. You'll hear about changes in herd composition, the increase of goats and the cashmere industry in Mongolia, and then how over time people have seen climate change impacts and how they're having to react and change and the threats to traditional lifestyles in Mongolia from that. So Annika Eriksson teaches anthropology at Gustavus Adolphus in Minnesota, and then Batboyan is in Mongolia, of course, at the Center for Nomadic Pastoralism Studies. So they have a lot of experience and will be leading this course, the second course that's in the first session. So now we move on to the second session, which will be a bit later. As we say, the Nadam holidays fall from roughly the 10th to the 14th in Mongolia, but last longer than that. And so we start the second session after the holidays, sort of a little bit later in the summer period. So on July 27th, the second set of courses, and the students will all come together for an orientation for a few days in Ulaanbaatar, and then sort of separate off with their class group and move to different parts of Mongolia to participate in their course. Now, I don't believe Kathy or Susan are able to join us for this course, but it's a course that I've been doing some work with them on around climate change and public health, heat, fire, flood, drought. So there are many ways in which climate change is impacting public health directly and indirectly. It's changing sort of disease profiles due to changes in climate. It's changing people's availability and access to food. As we heard, it's impacting nomadic herders in Mongolia, and therefore it's impacting their livelihoods, people's ability to access then traditional water sources and grassland areas. And so what this is looking at, Susan and Kathy are in Montana and work with public health services there, and they're studying and working with how climate change is impacting public health needs and services within the Montana context, and in particular with Native Americans. And we hope to have several Native American public health experts joining this class and participating and coming from Montana to support both as instructors and students in the class, joining together with public health experts from Mongolia, who will be supporting the class as well. So the class will go to several areas in central Mongolia, where there will be learning from the local officials, visiting healthcare facilities, seeing how healthcare is delivered. If you think about Mongolia, which is the least densely populated country in the world, you have to deliver healthcare to a very dispersed population, which is often moving from site to site. And yet I remember the statistic, 98% of babies in Mongolia are born in hospitals. So from the Soviet times and the communist legacy, there still is a very strong public health system that exists in Mongolia. And they continue to offer care through the smaller towns located in rural areas. But there's a lot of challenges of how you get people in by horseback, by motorcycle. How do you get people to access healthcare and provide healthcare out to people in dispersed rural areas? These are issues that are faced in Canada, where I live, in the United States as well. And so we'll be looking at that and doing a cross-comparative study as well. And as I say, with this particular emphasis on vulnerable populations, such as Native American communities in North America and their public health needs and how they're being impacted by climate change. And so it'll be a cross study as well of North American systems and the Mongolian system. So that is the first class in the second that will be available in the second session. The next one, and Betsy, I know that you're with us. This class that will look at Mongolian Buddhism and conservation, which is a very interesting crossover topic. So I will turn it over to you to introduce.
Hello, everyone. I'm Betsy, and I'm really excited to teach this course. Just so you know, I'm an environmental historian, so I look at how religious beliefs interpret landscape. I am a Buddhist, and I've studied Buddhism, but my particular academic background is in religion and landscape, not specifically in Buddhism. That said, I've worked in Mongolia for many years. I've been involved in working with the Ganden Monastery leadership, and so I'm going to be co-teaching this class with monks that I have been involved with and who have worked with me on a conservation project that I was involved with in Mongolia for a number of years up on the Siberian border in a province called Hufskal. So what we will do is we will look at the history of Buddhism in Mongolia. We will look at how it traveled across the Silk Route. We will visit several monasteries, or well, I should say a few monasteries. There are not that many existing anymore because of religious purges during the communist era. So we're going to be looking at this trajectory in history. And then we're going to go and spend most of our time on in a place called the Egg-Or watershed. It's a confluence of two rivers. It's some of the most beautiful territory that I've ever seen. It reminds me very much of Montana, where I live, and know Sue Higgins, who was the instructor that Charles was just talking about, who I worked with for a number of years. And I have to say, I don't envy you if you're trying to choose a course, because I think that all these courses sound unbelievably amazing. But we will be on in this particularly beautiful watershed. And in this watershed and in this region, we really see this intersect between shamanism and Buddhism. So in addition to working with monks, we're also going to learn about how shamanism in Mongolia very much paints the way Buddhism is practiced. So we will be meeting with one of my very dear friends who is a shaman, and she'll be talking about this particular intersect. So it really is this course that covers how this religious point of view looks at landscape, how they interpret landscape, and then we're going to look at the last part of the class. How does Buddhism how does it embrace conservation? Why is it an important ethic in the Buddhist perspective? And in this particular area, there's a wonderful story about the Buddhists, those that are practicing Buddhists in this area, becoming very much involved in fisheries and water conservation, and we'll talk about that. So it's a series of stories, and I think it's going to be a really wonderful way for you to interface with pastoral culture, with Buddhism, with shamanism, and with the history of Buddhism in Mongolia. So
and you're right.
Please contact me with any questions, or, again, as everybody said, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have, or to help them, sort of better understand what the course is going to be.
Yes, thank you, Betsy. And as you say, I think the challenge is knowing which of these courses. I'm ready to come and take them all myself. So. And now I'm going to turn it over to, I believe Lauren is with us to talk about, we're going from the north down to the south and talking about the Gobi area closer to the Chinese border and the desert area where much of the mining development is taking place in Mongolia, and of course impacts on traditional cultures there and water issues and a lot of very interesting issues. So I'll turn it over to you, Lauren.
Hello, well, it's wonderful to be with everyone. My co-instructor, Munkirden, he unfortunately is not able to join us. So my name is Lauren Bonilla, and I cross between geography and anthropology, and Munkirden is a Mongolian anthropologist. And the Gobi Desert is, of course, it's a huge region of Mongolia. It stretches across southern Mongolia, and it stretches also into China. And the Gobi is so important to Mongolia ecologically, but most recently economically and politically. Because of the boom and bust that Mongolia has been feeling, those boom and bust have been shaped by dynamics happening in the Gobi, and specifically in Uman-Gobi or South Gobi province. South Gobi province is the home of Tavantolgoi, a huge coal deposit, and Oyu Tolgoi, which is a massive gold and copper deposit. So for this field course, what we're interested in is how different groups of people are imagining the future of the Gobi, because there's so many competing interests in this region with mining companies, with local herders, but then also there's been an influx of in-migrants starting new businesses. There's an interest in encouraging cross-border trade with China, and in the coming years, China is anticipating to expand their Belt and Road Initiative into this region. And so there's a lot on the horizon in the Gobi, but it's unclear what path the future is going to take in this region. So in our field course, we're interested in meeting with different groups of people, from herders to small business owners to representatives of mining companies, to think about, well, what are these different futures that are being imagined, and what are the different projects and plans that are in the works to realize these different futures. So for this course, we're anticipating to be based in Uman-Gobi, and specifically around the Dalanzadgad, that's the provincial capital of Uman-Gobi province, and Tavantolgoi, the major coal deposit. We're going to begin in Dalanzadgad, and in Dalanzadgad, we're going to spend time in the AMIC Center, where there was a lot of anticipation that this was going to be one of the biggest new cities of Mongolia. It was going to compete with Ulaanbaatar. There were plans that were drawn up in 2008, 2009, that they were anticipating 100,000 to 1 million people were going to be moving into this region. And those plans have not come to be realized, but there was a lot of development that was done to anticipate that. So we'll be looking at some of these new construction projects in Dalanzadgad, and then we're going to be going to an area nearby Dalanzadgad, the Gurvensaichen Mountains. This is the southern part of the Altai Mountains that extend into the Gobi Desert. And in the Gurvensaichen Mountains, it's a major site of tourism. And then we'll be meeting with herders there to talk with them about how they're experiencing these boom-bust cycles and how they're being affected by mining developments that are not happening there, but that are happening elsewhere. And then that takes us then to the site of Tavantolgoi, which is located in a place called Tsoktetsi. And this is also a place where there was great plans of how Tsoktetsi was going to grow into this major urban center. And we'll see how those plans have either come true or that they have not materialized as expected. So hopefully we'll be able to visit the Tavantolgoi deposit and meet with people working at the mine. And then we'll travel around the mine. So we'll see areas where water is being developed to support the mining activities. We will visit infrastructure projects like roads that have been built. We'll also visit the very controversial site of a railroad that is meant to replace a road to provide coal export to China. So this field course is really interested in thinking critically about development. What are the different meanings of development, and how do these different visions of development coexist or not with each other? Because what we will likely see is the very different visions for the future of the Gobi, and how these different visions may impact and how they might show different environmental futures, different social futures, political, economic futures. As an anthropologist, organizing this trip, we're really interested in how local people are articulating these different visions. So there's going to be a strong focus in anthropology. And we also anticipate doing some work in scenario building. And how we go with that depends on interest in the group. So we'll do some activities where we'll talk with local people about how they're imagining the future. We will maybe look at oral histories. So there's different techniques that we might explore in building scenarios for what the future may be for the Gobi. So I will end it there, and I unfortunately will have to head off now, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact me.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And it too sounds like a very interesting class. And now we're going to go to the other end of the country and looking as well at some of the mining impacts, but in northern Mongolia and some of the mines there. So I believe you guys are here to represent Marissa, Rebecca. Are you with, and Gantulga? You're with us, I believe.
Yeah. Do you hear me? Hi, Charles. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. I think today just Marissa and Rebecca can't join. Probably just 2 days earlier, they joined the call and made the introduction to the course. But for today, probably it's my turn to introduce. Okay. I'm Gantulga, and I'm a lecturer at the School of Geology in Mining Engineering at the Mongolian University of Science and Technology. And originally I had this idea that from the time that announcement of the ACMS Field School for the 2020, just based on my former experience of organizing the environmental exchange program in Euro region of Selenga province, and also around Darhan and Erdenet area. And I just, okay, why not? And then introduced with my colleagues, Marissa and Rebecca, and then we are proposing this idea together to implement this project. And okay, so basically what the course offer is We will introduce with the human environmental relations with the emphasis of mining activities in northern Mongolian regions. So the participants in our program would learn from Mongolian experts and professionals about not only their goals and concerns, but also their ways of addressing and achieving them, with a special spoke on environmental issues from mining. And as of plans, probably we will spend first 3 days in UB meeting with the state organizations such as Mineral Resources Authority of Mongolia, and also the Ministry of Nature and the Environment, and meet with the heads of the certain sort of sectors that related to the mines and environment, and had some knowledge and question and answer and these kind of thing. And then we will start heading to directly north towards Euro, to Selenga. And then I think this is the first part of the program, that we will directly head to the Eco-Land camp, which is run by a former stateswoman called Narangerl, and she runs the children's environmental, like a summer camp, for actually with the idea of like sort of halting the growing increasing activities in the region, the increasing mining activities in the region. So this actually, the idea was very good, and she's doing some great stuff there. And then we will be based on her camp about for a week, which is a very beautiful place, and also had a very a lot of like mining prone area. So we will visit the local mines there, and some are few like kilometers drive from the camp as well. And then so we'll probably meet with the artisanal mining activities, and also the local buyus, and also the local citizens, and hear their ideas, and probably propose our project ideas, like small group project ideas for our participants. And we will develop our ideas there, and doing some activities there, and then start heading to Darhan, and probably meet with the local also environmental buyus there, and probably we had a plan to spend 1 full day in Darhan. And then we will start driving to Erdenet, and we have probably 3 or 4 days of staying in that area. And during this time, we will visit the copper and molybdenum industry in Erdenet, which is one of the biggest in Asia, if not the world, and visit with their activities, and also like the whole sort of workflow of how it's went through, and also the environmental issues confronting with them, and or any other related issues actually. And then what's the future plans if the mining will close in the upcoming, I don't know, 20, 25 years or so. And the formerly formed small groups will wrap up their projects and probably introduce to us and what would probably the best solution to like deal with the mining situation in the northern regions in Mongolia or so. And yeah, we'll finish up there and start driving to UB. And that's the sort of main idea, that how we propose our course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I trust you could still hear me. I had to call in.
Yeah.
My computer somehow quit working. So that basically covers all of the different course sections. As I say, anyone who has questions, you can put in the chat as well. You can just send us emails. If you're in Ulaanbaatar, come by the office there. Call. We have a U.S. number or a number in Ulaanbaatar. We're happy to help you, and we can connect you as well with the instructors. We can connect you with people for the program, any kind of resources or information. And you may just have an interest in one of the topics, and so we're happy to connect you with the right people for your topic of or area of interest. So we'll see. I think there were a few questions, but anyone who's interested, please follow up. If you're watching this as a video later, just follow up with the ACMS office, and we will be happy to help you, as I say, and answer any of your questions. We'll have another webinar in January, and the priority application deadline for fellowships. We'll do admissions on a rolling basis and then provide fellowships after the priority deadline of March 1st. So thank you all, everyone, for participating tonight. And I think we will wrap up the session here. And Baikla, Baikta. Everyone have a very happy holiday season. And we will see you all, and hopefully see you in Mongolia. So thank you very much. Tricia, did you want to say anything from the Ulaanbaatar office?
Sure. Thank you all for participating, and you can always email us or call us or stop by if you're local or otherwise. And we really look forward to organizing all these great courses this summer. And I think we have some really strong instructors as well. And so just looking forward to getting people signed up and answering any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who participated. And we will see you in Mongolia. All right. Goodbye. Signing off.
Bye.